This story comes to us from WRTV.com out of Muncie, Indiana. 2 former Muncie police officers were sentenced for using excessive force and, get this, writing false reports. No way. Cops don't lie on reports. Chase Winkle, the son of former police chief Joe Winkle, was sentenced to 10 years in prison and 2 years of supervised release. He was immediately handcuffed and remanded to the custody of the U.S. Marshals. Winkle, who's 36, blamed his actions on anger, insecurity, stress, and off-duty alcohol abuse as he addressed the judge during his sentence hearing. Winkle said to the judge, "I know that I was wrong. I wish I had been written up, heavily disciplined, or even fired." You only wish that because you got caught. That's it. If you hadn't been caught, you wouldn't, Before handing down, so it's other people's fault for not writing him up or disciplining him or even firing him. It's their fault for not taking care of him. Before handing down her sentence, Judge Tanya Walton Pratt addressed Winkle, saying he terrorized the Muncie community. She said you can't blame your dad or the Muncie Police Department. This was not a one-time lapse in judgment. See, he's trying to blame other people. Oh, trying to put blame on other people. See. Winkle admitted to assaulting 5 suspects and writing false reports to cover it up. Winkle's father, former police chief Joe Winkle, attended and held his head in his hands for much of the sentencing. It's okay. It's okay. Sorry, man. I hate this cop. Earlier Wednesday morning, former Muncie police officer Jeremy Gibson was sentenced to 14 months in prison, followed by 2 years of supervised release. Gibson was accused of using excessive force on suspect Manny Montero in 2018 and writing a false report to cover it up. In May 2022, Gibson pleaded guilty to 2 felony charges connected with excessive force and covering it up, depriving arrestees of their rights and obstruction of justice for falsifying a report about use of force. Gibson said, "I deeply regret my actions. There is nothing I can do to repair the damage that I have caused." Well, let's clarify it, buddy. You don't deeply regret your actions. You regret that you got caught. Judge Tanya Walton Pratt said Gibson will be allowed to report to federal prison on January 2nd of 2024 so he can attend the birth of his 4th child. That's nice of her. Gibson said in his sentencing, "I have no excuse for my actions. My actions have disgraced me and my family and your police department." Don't forget that. He didn't include that. Manny Montero nearly lost an eye as a result of the assault and was severely injured. As part of his sentence, Gibson must pay Montero restitution, but the amount has not yet been determined. He's going to file bankruptcy, watch. Judge Tanya Walton Pratt called Gibson's actions appalling, saying, "Our society can't tolerate police brutality," before handing down a sentence. Gibson had faced up to 30 years in prison, but the court took into account that he pleaded guilty and accepted responsibility. Well, come on, he's accepting responsibility. He's got it down pat, so we won't give him his 30 years, give him 14 months. How do you go from 30 years to 14 months? He filed paperwork last week asking the federal judge to sentence him to home confinement, probation, and community service instead of prison. And of course, Gibson's attorney filed a 70-page sentencing memorandum ahead of that sentencing. According to the sentencing memorandum, Gibson's attorney says the former officer fell prey to a corrupt police department characterized by nepotism, a lack of training, and supervisors who turned a blind eye to unethical practices. I need to practice reading. But he fell prey to a corrupt police department. He's a victim. No, he's not prey to that corrupt police department. He's part of that corrupt police department. The only prey, P-R-E-Y, in this story are the citizens of Muncie, Indiana. He's not prey to the corrupt police department. He is part of that corruption. And in fact, they say supervisors who turned a blind eye to unethical practices. Yeah, I guess so. 2 cops sentenced from that department just recently. Now, they say that Gibson's filing says he has accepted responsibility and cooperated fully, completely, and voluntarily. He was the first indicted defendant in this multi-defendant case to plead guilty and was the impetus behind the government securing 2 more guilty pleas. And it goes down. This is really long. Like, it goes way down. So you can read it by clicking the link in the description box. The fact that these 2 cops, one of them's blaming, well, they didn't fire me or discipline me. So who's at fault here? You are. And then the other one, he's like, I fell prey to a corrupt police department. No, you're not a little rabbit and they're not a bunch of wolves. You're one of the wolves. Get it right, buddy.